Right now we're learning the Dvar Malchut, and if you remember last time we talked about how France and the changes which occurred in France are the best indication that Moshiach is here and that the redemption is supposed to be any second now. The whole changing of the whole world is supposed to be happening in every moment, and France is the sign of it. Maybe the change occurred too gradually, so we don't notice it, but in the time of the first Rebbe of Chabad, as France was the bastion, it was the stronghold of atheism in the world, and it succeeded tremendously. France, in some ways, was even more atheistic than even the Greeks were. The Greeks in the time of Passover, in the time of Hanukkah, the Greeks in the time of Hanukkah, at least they believed in something. They believed they had their gods, they had something that they prayed to, they had their customs, this. And the France, especially Napoleon's France, was very, very atheistic, even though they gave a place for religion. Everybody had their place. But it was everything was totally separated. And Napoleon, he did not win mentioning God, or whether he was the essence of the French philosophy, which was man is the measure of all things, and you decide what it is. And that's what France was back then. It was powerful. Nowadays, France has totally changed. France has totally changed. First of all, it's no longer a world power like it was back then, and it's not envied by the whole world. French philosophy and French the literature and French art and French this. It used to be they had the greatest artists. It's not that way. But even more, we see that in France that there's Judaism is flourishing in France. Judaism is flourishing in France, and even more that there's institutions of Judaism in France, which is an unheard of thing now recently. And also in Chabad, there's a great, said the Rebbe, okay, maybe all this is a little bit too gradual, you can't really notice it. But one thing you can notice is the anthem. The anthem. The anthem of France, Hasidim took the anthem and they put words to it from our prayers. And we see after that France actually changed some parts of their anthem. And this drastically changed the whole spirit of Judaism in France. So the Rebbe said this, and what did it change it to? It changed it to an awareness of God. And that's the whole idea of Moshiach. Moshiach is going to bring an awareness of God into the lowest places, and the lowest places is France. It's maybe an interesting thing, and maybe this is the time to mention it. What does it mean that France was the lowest place in the world? I mean, in France, there wasn't outright anti-Semitism. It was almost the opposite. And France was like the first place where there was intermarriage. And Napoleon accepted all the Jews. Like I said, Napoleon, he wanted to make the state of Israel. He wanted to make a Sanhedrin. He wanted all the Jews to go to Israel. He wanted to make pretty much like what there is now, a secular state of Israel. That's what he wanted. Israel should be a secular state, and it should be just like France is. And they would have the second. Napoleon was not in any way an anti-Semite. He was anti-Judaism. He was not anti the Jews, though. His big enemy was the first Rebbe of Chabad. Nobody really got this except for the first Rebbe of Chabad. All the other great leaders said, Napoleon likes the Jews, we'll deal with it. He's against learning Torah. He didn't say anything like that. He's against God. Let him do what he wants to with his own life. What do we care? But we're going to learn Torah. We're going to do the commandments. The first Rebbe of Chabad said, no, we can't continue this way. It can't continue. If it continues this way, there's just going to be more intermarriage and more confusion. And the religious people, little by little, they'll start falling away and being enamored with the French freedom and the French this fun and culture, but as ostensibly, physically, France was a good place for Jews to live. They got along with everybody. On the other hand, Russia was terrible. It was a terrible place for Jews to live. And every opportunity, the Tsar, first of all, wanted to rule over everybody. And the Tsar wanted everyone to be Christian, right? He wanted they tried to induct them into the army by force. So that's and the Alter Rebbe favored the Tsar. He even sent spies to spy on Napoleon to help the Tsar. And he did help the Tsar. This is because he got a special prize from the Tsar. For all generations, they were honored citizens because they helped the Tsar so much. Right? They helped the Tsar. And so here we see that the look of Chabad and the whole idea of Moshiach is not exactly what we think. For sure, there is, beneficial to mankind and beneficial to the Jews, and etc. But that's only a secondary thing. The main thing is what happens Jewishly, not even spiritually. What happens Jewishly? You want spiritually, you go to India, go to these places. There's all these spirit and meditations and things like that. But when we're talking about God, to make the Creator revealed in the creation, that the Jews will want to do what the Creator wants, without any thought of levels or rewards. Right? That's Judaism. That's Abraham. That's what Abraham revealed. That the most fulfilling thing to a human being is to do what God wants, and that fixes up the world, fixes up the physical world. So that's okay. So this over here. This is okay. So the Rebbe says that's the idea of France becoming fixed up. We're not talking about cosmetic, external things, that it's more user-friendly in Jews, it's easier to rent a house in France, or you can walk through the streets of France. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, in some ways, this is very weird. Maybe we can say now in France is the best time because Jews are reminded everywhere they are that they're Jews. Jews are reminded everywhere that they're Jews. True, the violence and this is bad, it's evil. But on the other hand, it's becoming very clear to Jews that being Jewish is good, and the reason that they're hated is because these people hate good, right? These people hate good. America, there's all these college students that they're all for the Hamas. Why are they for the Hamas? Because they hate good. Hamas is only bad. They never did anything good. Never. Nothing, never benefited anyone, not even themselves. And the university students are all for them, and the United Nations is for them, and they are the ones that are suffering, and they are the David, and we Jews, we're the Goliath. Everything is just upside down. And it's just becoming clearer and clearer to the Jews that the reason that we're being hated doesn't make any sense. We certainly are not the oppressors. We certainly are not, making a genocide, whatever that means. They made up that the Palestinians are a genus or something like that, and we're trying to kill the Palestinian race. There's no such thing. There never was such a thing. Right? They made the whole thing up. On the other hand, they're actively shooting tens of thousands of missiles trying to kill Jews. Jews are definitely a genus. The Jews are definitely a race, a group, whatever, and trying to kill them is clearly a bigotry, right? And nevertheless, the world is with the Jews, against the Jews. The United Nations is against the Jews, and the ICC. So little by little, Jews are starting to wake up. What is there inside of me that's arousing the world? So I'm trying to be like everybody else. That's the reason that I became religious. This was like over 50 years ago, right? I realized that there's anti-Semitism, and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. People hate me because I'm a Jew, and I'm not Jewish. I don't do anything Jewish. I don't keep Shabbos. I don't have anything. I don't wear a Jewish star, nothing whatsoever. Right? As soon as they say, "Oh, you're a Jew," I hate you. And suddenly people are starting to realize that the reason people hate Jews is because Jews are good. And that's the whole thing of France. France is now turning over. The whole France is turning over. In the Rebbe's case, is talking about it was turning over in a visibly good way. But I'm saying it's also turning over now that's clarifying clearly what bad is. What bad is. And the Jews are not it. So the Rebbe says, oh, Madua Mazkirim, why are we talking about this now? Why are we even talking about the French national anthem got changed and things like that? I mean, why we're sitting in a Farbrengen, we're talking about this, just like right now, here we're having a class in Torah, and I'm talking about this politics and what's going on in France. Why are we talking about this? Especially a chassid, he can say, I was taught that everything is learning Torah. Now we're sitting in 770 in a holy place. Now we're talking about the song of France got changed. In general, they're also surprised. Says that these physical things, we don't care about them at all. What do we care about? What happens you read in the newspapers? What do we care? What difference does it make? What difference does it make? It's relevant to me. Behold, first of all, we have to have a recognition and give thanks to God on miracles that He does. You have to know something about what's going on in the world and give thanks to God. And especially now when we are right next to Chanukah, that the whole idea of Chanukah is advertising the miracle. Or even if you want to say that in the rest of the days of the year, other days of the year, we don't have to be so much stressed, stressing so much, advertising miracles. Like we can see that this the whole idea of Chanukah and Purim and etc. They're special days. Okay, but in the days of Chanukah, you do have to advertise miracles, and we can say that this includes also not just the miracle of the war and the miracle of the bottle of oil, but also the miracle with all of the miracles that God does to the Jewish people everywhere. And the main thing is hakara, the clear recognition and the giving thanks and giving praise to God on the miracles that God does. The reason that the Hamas and that the Hezbollah shot, 25,000 missiles at us, and they've all missiles, not because they're bad shots. It's because God is doing amazing miracles. I mean, amazing miracles. Even if they would shoot just one missile and it would miss. Last night there was one. I just remember now. 2 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, almost the sirens went off here in Kfar Chabad. Everybody's running around. I don't run around. I'm not afraid, to tell you the truth. You can say whatever you want to. The Rebbe, Lubavitcher Rebbe said that Israel is the safest place in the world, and Kfar Chabad is the safest place in Israel. That's what he said. So I don't run down to up to now. Here I am. I'm still here. But we had one yesterday, remember. And my grandson was also here, and he also doesn't run down and hide. And there was a big explosion. We'll see where it exploded. It exploded somewhere. There was also, like a month ago, there was a missile that hit Kfar Chabad. It hit Kfar Chabad. It hit a person's backyard where he has a few like old cars that don't work. He had them in his backyard, and it hit them and smashed them, wrecked the whole thing up. Big blast. It shook the whole place. But no one was hurt whatsoever. And there's 2 old ladies that live there, 2 old grandmothers that live right there, and they happened to be, they weren't even there, so they didn't even hear the blast, so nobody was even hurt. Nobody wasn't hurt. The whole thing. I mean, it's just amazing miracles are going on. But in any case, it says that amazing miracles we have to advertise. This is God doing this intentionally, right? And He's saving all the Jews, not just saving the religious ones, only the Chabad ones, only the ones I like or something. He's saving everybody. Hari, but Nosaf. I mean, you know that in Israel live about 2 million Arabs live in Israel. That's the whole thing. It's just so insane. This thing about Gaza. I mean, the Israeli government is so insane that they gave them this Palestinian authority. What? There's millions of Arabs that live in Israel proper. In Tel Aviv, they live, and they have their own cities, Ramallah, all these other places, and they're hotbeds of Shechem, No Jew goes into those places. These are places in Israel. You don't go. I mean, you can go in, but you'll never come out. Hari ben Nosaf in Israel, cities in Israel, huh? Cities in Israel. It's like if you say, if you go into whatever it is, the Muncie or something, you never come out, right? Because in America, there's no such thing as a city in America. In a part of America, you go in there, you never come out. What are you talking? And here you go into these cities in the middle of the day. That's it. You go into Ramallah, you're finished. And here the Israeli government keeps saying, and the missiles that they say, God saves even those people from the missiles. Saves even the Arabs that are in Shechem and in Ramah. Amazing miracles. The land of Israel protects. Hari ben Nosaf, and in addition to this, doing the miracles, we have to also, this is relevant to the arrival of Moshiach and the true redemption. Why? Like the Gemara says, that God wanted to make Chezkiyahu. Chezkiyahu was the king of Israel, like in the middle of the first temple, and he wanted to make him, he was supposed to be the Mashiach. Omer Midas Adin, it said that the aspect of severity said in front of God, Chizkiah, you want to make him the Mashiach? So many miracles were done for him. He was saved from Sancheriv, and he got healed from a sickness. You look in the book of Kings, you'll see. And he didn't sing a song for you. He didn't sing praises. You can't make him Mashiach. Right? A Mashiach has to praise God all the time. According to this, we can understand that the advertisement of miracles that God does now, this is relevant to the future redemption that's supposed to come any single second. From this, now we can understand the main teaching that we should get from this speech that I'm giving, since that already we are after all of everything, right? The pain of the Jewish people, the Holocaust, the destruction of the temple, and etc. And the Geula, nevertheless, has not yet come. We see Jews are still ignorant. There's a lot of non-Jews that do not do the 7 Noahide commandments. So the redemption is not here yet. So Dvar Nachon, therefore, it is only proper that we should advertise miracles, advertise by yourself and others, and every place where you are, the great miracles that God is doing with us, with the clear awareness that this is connected to the future and the immediate redemption. How much more so now in the days of Hanukkah, that the whole thing of Hanukkah is to advertise miracles. We should use these days, in addition to Kol HaPa'olot and all the other things that you do on Hanukkah. On Hanukkah, especially, they drive around and they give out the Hanukkah candles. They go to the army, especially in order to make forbringans, for Hasidic forbringans, or to call it in another language, whether it was Azla Lekarta, Nimusa. You go to a country, you should do according to their custom. In America, said the Rebbe, they want to do everything in advertising. Advertising is very big in America. You do something, you advertise, you put it in the paper. That's what we want to do now. We're in America, advertise everything we do. All the days of Hanukkah, and you should make forbringans, advertise the forbringans, advertise the Hasidic get-togethers, say over the words of Torah, reveal Torah, hidden Torah, to make good resolutions regarding Torah and the commandments in a way that continues making more and more light, like the Hanukkah lights do, and advertise the miracles that were back then that are even now. This especially is connected to France, we said before. This is connected to, we spoke about before, talking about France, and France is the word paratsta, and the France is the numerical value of 770. This is especially in this forbringing. Why? Because here, the Rebbe is speaking about in the 770, when he was speaking there in 1991, says there's a big group of Jews that came from France, and they reached on this Shabbat, Beit Knesset, Beit Midrash of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, 770. And especially because these Jews, they're building new institutions in France, and they're printing books in France. And it's talking about how much this is relevant to the refinement of the world, in addition to the fact that this certainly adds success in everything that we are occupied in, physical, spiritual, and adding b'mosif b'kesher shalaim im Torah v'mitzvot to add on the miraculous side of Torah and commandments and advertise it to others. By means of this, she'im mosifim b'pashtus b'kiyum Torah v'mitzvot, encourage other Jews to learn Torah and to do commandments, including and especially the commandment of charity. The charity, like we just finished learning in Likkutei Torah, this brings closer the future redemption, the redemption of all of the Jews in every place wherever they are. Therefore, it is only proper, l'chabed otam, these French people that came here now, said the Rebbe, therefore, because we see here as an example of how Judaism has spread out in the world and how they are spreading out Judaism in the world, we should say l'chaim, and this will add extra blessing to all of the people that are here and all the Jews in the world. And to add on that we are found now also guests from Canada. That Canada also was relevant to France, especially Montreal, was Quebec, the whole thing of Quebec. They're always wanting to make a secede from France, make it a country on their own. May it be God's will that this transformation and refinement of France, together with the service of Jews and refining the whole world, will bring already, immediately, what it says, "V'galut hachel hazeh le'bnei Yisrael." This is in the prophecy of Ovadia, the last week's Torah portion, that this the exile of the Jewish people will end from France, and it'll end in France and also the cities of the south, the Olam Moshiach, and then the Moshiach will come from the mountain of Zion. I mean, maybe you can see the Moshiach means all the Chabad Hasidim, everyone who's trying to help bring Moshiach will come from the Mount of Zion, and they will judge the mountain of Esav. And then God will have the rulership and the true redemption. That means the Mashiach Tzidkenu, Paratz Tazah Peretz. Peretz is, they're talking about the Mashiach. This is also in this week's Torah portion, with the Tamar gives birth to Peretz. Zeh Mashiach shene'amar olo Poretz lefanenu. The Mashiach is called Poretz, Ufratz, Poretz lefanenu. One minute, where is it? Like we end in the blessing of the Chodesh in this month, B'nei Amen. And the guests that were there from France, they all said L'chaim, and they all sang together the song that the Rebbe said that there was the transformation of the French national anthem. There's V'emun l'chai yolamim, abir v'bracha l'chai yolamim. הגדול והגבור לחי עולם, ממטה והדיבור לחי עולמים. In the middle of the Farbrengen, the Rebbe made a thing, and he said that people should whistle. There was one chassid, his name was Meir Abasera. He was in the family of the Abasera. He was from France. He spoke French also. He spoke French. And he was at the front, and he used to whistle. The Rebbe had a whole sikh about how whistling is a good thing. It says when Moshiach comes, he's going to whistle, and whistling is this, and he would whistle like that. You could see. So they were all singing and whistling. In any case, we need Moshiach now, and we deserve Moshiach now, and the Rebbe promised Moshiach now, so we should have Moshiach now. Meanwhile, we have to learn as much Torah as possible, do as much good deeds as possible, and that will change the whole world for good. Now let's do the Yom Yom. Let's have this stuff to share.